I'm Josh,
I'm Grant.
and this is the Peel and Drag podcast.
My dong.
No.
Damn it!
No! Ah! What the?
Dude, today sucks. This has been the worst day ever. Can't catch shad, can't catch catfish. They got rid of the nachos, and my bang's warm.
Welcome back to the Peel and Drag podcast, episode 6, I believe. We have come off a terrible weekend of fishing. We're both incredibly red. I don't know if it's sunburn or windburn or
Both.
exactly what it is, but we had 2 miserable days of not catching fish despite our best efforts. So,
Yeah, it's like third weekend in a row I've been unsuccessful.
yeah, it's this time of year.
Caught
You're,
fish, just nothing I'm looking for.
yeah, this time of year, I mean, you said it earlier today. You're like grasping at straws. Like,
Yeah,
the weather's warming. A lot more things are coming into play, and you just...
It's weird because you want it to get warm and you want all that good, fun, warm weather stuff to happen. But, like, I haven't done a lot of the stuff I want to do when it's cold.
Yeah.
It's like last weekend I went saugeye fishing. Then I went brook trout fishing. And then this weekend we went hybrid striper fishing and brook trout fishing.
No,
I mean, no,
saugeye
fishing. So
Yeah.
just bouncing from one extreme to the other for the past 4 days of fishing.
Well, it's not helping either that, like, we're extremely early with spring this year, it seems like. All the trees are budding. I mean, we're at least a month earlier than what we normally are. So the shad are in the rivers, big striper in the rivers. Everybody's, like, getting into the flow of the spring fishing season. We're trying to still do, like, late winter stuff, so... But we had a major front roll through on Friday, so we tried for hybrids yesterday. We have Lake Anna here in Virginia that is loaded with really big hybrid striper. Ran around all day, got just absolutely brutalized by the wind. And
Found the fish.
Yeah, found them. I don't know what's more frustrating, not seeing them or spending all day staring at a graph, knowing they're
After
down
2
there.
days, I can assure you they're equally frustrating.
Yeah, it's just one of those things.
I
Like
took a nice nap today. About 30 minutes on the front of the boat.
Yeah.
That's how hot fishing was today.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, like, yesterday we saw hundreds, if not thousands, of the species that we're after and trying to get them to eat, which they wouldn't, had complete lockjaw in the middle of all that wind. And then today we couldn't find the fish, and I don't know if they would have eaten even if we could have found them, but it's just two very
Possibly
frustrating
days off of the spawn, if not hours.
Yeah, so I think full moon is Tuesday or Wednesday, so the saugeye are right on the cusp of wrapping their spawning up, I think. So, plus, like, water temps are 55 degrees today. We normally don't see that towards the end of this month. So,
I mean, it's like historically shad fishing. I mean, I remember when I was little, the rule of thumb was always shad won't consistently bite until the water hits 50.
yeah.
They're not biting anymore. They're striking out of aggression, whatever. But they won't consistently bite, and you won't have those, 75, 100 fish days until it hits 50. This is like the 4th year in a row now that it's 50 degrees before they even get here.
Yeah, guys are catching shad in February, which normally is not the case. But
I mean, I remember many times going out there and being out there before the sun comes up, and we're dumping water from the river into the floor of the boat to melt the ice that's in the boat.
Yeah,
that's
it's
how cold
definitely
it used to be.
Been a weird year so far. Just hopefully we don't get any snow in the next couple of weeks before spring actually finally settles in, because that'll really screw up everything. But I don't know. We got some good tips from our buddy Alex McCrickard through the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. He did a kind of a seminar type thing on the hybrid striper, and we talked about saugeye and stuff at one of our Anglers Club meetings last week. So we were hot on trying to get that stuff figured out over this weekend. And
those are both species that we've been like close to for a while.
Yeah,
We're like looking for the last piece, more or less.
Yeah, I got one more species to get to level 5, and like those are two. It's kind of low hanging fruit compared to everything else that's left, and it's just it is what it is. We tried and we failed miserably. Caught a couple bass today, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know. I feel like we caught more bass than the guys that were bass fishing. So
yeah, I don't feel like anybody did real good out there today.
So I don't know. Just rough weekend. So hopefully we can forget about it pretty quick. But let's move on to a little bit of fishing news. Let's see. I'll start us off here. The IGFA just released a report that another giant snakehead world record is potentially on the books. I reported on a fish that was caught a couple weeks ago by an angler that I believe was...
I think it was 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, 2 episodes.
The world record got broken, and has been broken since then.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I'm scrolling through their Instagram right now. It was a couple weeks ago, I think. It was a... Let's see, here we go. This is February 2nd, so it's been a little bit of time. Yeah, as you can hear, the pollen is setting in too, so we're all kind of stuffed up and sounding disgusting. But yeah, so Rawang, Malaysia, a 28-pound snakehead was caught, potentially setting the 30-pound line class world record. That fish was caught and released. And then just the other day, I believe yesterday, they posted about a 30-pound snakehead that will set the 20-pound line class record as well as the all-tackle world record. Angler Shamsul Azmi Ben. I always find a way to throw myself.
The names.
Yeah, I'm terrible at names. But he caught this fish, it looks like on New Year's Day. He landed a massive snakehead on a crankbait after a 5-minute battle. The fish was released after proper documentation. So this dude hooked this absolutely massive giant snakehead over in the same place the last one was caught, Rawang, Malaysia.
So crazy how they catch them things on crankbaits.
Yeah, it's
There's a lot of videos of it too. Like that's not like an isolated thing.
Yeah.
At certain times of the year, they catch them like deep cranking over there and stuff.
Yeah, so that's super cool. What do you have?
I was a little less prepared for the news segment, but
do you have anything?
To any of our northern listeners, maybe up in the Mille Lacs region, this year, it's the first year in a while that walleye fishing is supposed to remain open all summer. Some of our southern listeners that might not have walleye, they're a fish that has a high mortality rate in really hot water. They can't handle it, just like a muskie or pike or whatever, any of those northern species when the water gets above like 75 or so.
Yeah.
But supposedly they're going to allow them to fish for them all through the summer and still have like a keeper season because of a historically low amount of fish that have been caught through the ice because the ice came so late this year. Apparently the largest percentage of walleye that get taken out of the lake every year are taken through the ice. So since they had a really short ice season and it's already like the ice is receding, they said they will allow them to fish a little longer through at least into the summer. Let's see what they're...
Yeah, I was talking...
They can keep one walleye 21 to 23 inches or one longer than 28 inches.
I was talking to our buddy Pat up in Wisconsin. And he's on Lake Michigan. They kind of had the same deal. Like, they would ice fish for browns for a couple days, and then they're fishing the streams for them, and they keep jumping back and forth because they can't get consistent weather up there. So it's just been a warm year. I don't know if the polar ice caps are melting or, we're all going to die here pretty soon. But either way, it's been a warm year so far. So
yeah, it's when you start seeing them make adjustments like that, I mean, the thing is they know the water's still going to get above 75 in the summer, but I guess the way they're seeing is so few fish got caught this wintertime that they can handle it. Because I think up there they actually have a closed season. Like, not, you can't catch and release them, but you're not even supposed to target them.
Yeah.
Because of the mortality.
Mm-hmm. They do the same thing with muskie through the ice for some reason. Like, whenever that time, like, because they have a muskie opener, which I think is like sometime in the early spring. But yeah, it's the same way. That's like an up north thing that a lot of southern fishermen won't really be used to. Like, they have seasonal stuff. Like, bass is closed for a certain amount of time. I think
that's got a lot to do with why a lot of those northern fisheries are so good.
Yeah.
Well, I look at Maine. I mean, some of the best trout fishing anywhere in the country. Yeah. And they have an entire month and a half of the year where you cannot legally, like, fish freshwater. I mean, that sucks, but...
Yeah, it's interesting, like, the fishing seasons. I know muskie has one. Apparently walleye has one. I think, like, way up north, maybe largemouth or something like that. I think that might be...
I think they have what they call warm water opener, which is, like, bass. Yeah. And some of those guys I've watched on YouTube, they have, like, a warm water opener season, and I don't know exactly what the days are, but...
Yeah, they do the same thing, I think, with those lake sturgeon, too.
It's like groups of species open at the same time, too.
It's interesting. Interesting way to go about things. We're not used to that type of thing down here, but
no,
I don't know. Cool.
I mean, a lot of states are right around us, like West Virginia and Pennsylvania, and I don't think Maryland, but Pennsylvania, they have trout openers.
Yeah.
They have a trout season and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we hear that type of talk, like season, like trout season or shad season. Like, shad season's a thing because it is seasonal.
Yeah, but when people in Virginia say it, they just mean like it's time to catch them.
Yeah.
It's not like it's now legal.
Right.
It's legal. You can fish for them all year round if you want.
But. Yeah. Cool. Well, that is a good bit of fishing news. So we got walleye being fished all year and another world record giant snakehead. So we're going to have to make a trip to catch those at some point.
Malaysia.
Yeah. I don't think it's terribly expensive. It's not. Pretty sure we get a solid deal on the conversion rate on that one.
Yeah.
But
$14.
Yeah. $12. Go catch one. No, anyway, we'll move into some fishing tackle
slash gear.
Yeah, new gear segment. You got one from Yak Attack, right?
Yeah, it seems like all we announced that's new is Yak Attack gear lately, but that's because they seem to be the only company really cranking out a lot of gear right now. What did Luther post the other day? Like 8 new products in 2 weeks that they've come out with. They haven't even released them all yet.
Yeah, they do a big like product release kind of at the beginning of the year, so that's why the last couple episodes have been.
And they always save a couple for iCast too. So, but anyway, the newest one we already talked about, the bar cart, their tow and stow bar cart that they had. Well, they're gonna have that's essentially gonna be the premium option, and the ultra collapsible, more portable version. And then they have another cart that they're releasing called the Tow and Stow Bunkster, which is only the main difference. It's not quite as collapsible. From the looks of the pictures, it has the same wheels, but instead of the ability to rotate the bunks perpendicular / parallel with the kayak, they're only going to run parallel.
Right.
So it's more like a true bunk style cart rather than the bar cart can be either way. And like we talked, that bar cart, if you had them perpendicular, you could use that for like a john boat or something.
Yeah, like a small, like 12, 14-foot john boat.
But the bunkster is going to be pretty much strictly kayak style. They got a bunch of pictures of it here. Pretty much every sit-on-top kayak has a seam where the scupper holes are, so you can adjust it and have those bunks running right in those seams, and looks like it'd be a pretty solid connection. Looks like same wheels and same center bar and everything as the bar cart.
Yeah, I think it's just
the only thing that changed is the bunks.
Yeah,
themselves.
The bunk system's a little different. What was the MSRP?
The here.
Yeah.
So that is the bar cart. If you can see that.
If you're watching on YouTube.
You scroll over here, and that is the bunkster. So the main difference,
couple less components.
Is, quite a few less parts. I think in this post they actually say the bar carts, they all break down into 5 major pieces, but the bar cart is only 5 pieces, where the the bunkster is only 5 pieces, where the bar cart is 15. But that's because the bar cart is a more collapsible one.
Gotcha.
The bar cart will pretty much fit inside of the front hatch of any kind.
What's the comparison on price in those two?
I believe the bar cart was supposed to be around $250, and I think the bunkster is going to be not significantly cheaper, but I don't think they've set a price from what I've seen. I don't want to say a price without knowing it 100%. But it's definitely gonna be cheaper. I would say most likely below the $200 mark for sure.
Yeah, there's got to be enough of a gap in price to make both options, reasonable. But it's a good deal.
Scroll down a little bit, see if I can find a price. Well,
I think that's what the third product from Yak Attack to come out, third or fourth. Yeah. So they have about as many left.
Yeah, we had the A-Trail adapters, the Duo mounts. You got 2 carts.
Then they had another, like the 90 degree. They had a version of that came out too, I believe.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, my new tackle for this episode is a new topwater bait from Teckle. It's a brand we use all the time. Snakehead fishing. They got the Sprinker, the Honker, all those.
Sprinker, Honker,
Whacker, Kick Knocker.
Choker. There's a lot of them.
Get to know her first. Take her out on a dater.
With consent.
Jeez. Yeah, well, this one's called the Sharker. It is a topwater, kind of like a soft style spook. You can work it like a spook. You can work it kind of subsurface. It has just a regular, looks like maybe a feather tail as opposed to like a paddle tail or anything.
Yeah, it's just when I saw pictures of it, it's just like similar to, it's a totally different body. This is the first frog they've released in a while that has a different body shape. But yeah, it's got that sharp nose on it, make it walk better, and it looks like it's feathers, but I've also seen some pictures of it with a skirt on the back, like a single skirt.
Yeah, most of the Teckle stuff we throw, the bodies are all the same. It's just the tail section that's different. Yeah. This is actually a different body-shaped frog. And I watched a quick video on it like 2 days ago. You can work it like a spook. You can work it like a regular,
There was a video of him steady retrieving it, too, and it's like diving and darting around.
Yeah,
it looks pretty cool.
Like a subsurface wake bait, and it does all kinds of cool stuff. So I'd be interested to see kind of...
Yeah, rather than having kind of like a rounded nose and a flat belly, it has that sharp nose to make it glide more.
Yeah.
It's the same idea like when we're tying those jerk changer flies. You want it to have flat sides.
Right.
So once it planes off to that one side walking it, there were videos of it. You can sit there on a slack line and almost make the thing wag back and forth in place.
Yeah.
That'll be great for those like picky fish that come up and look at it.
Yeah, so they just announced it. Looks like 3 days ago, so it'd be interesting to see when it actually hits the market over here. I'm sure we'll get it by the time, okay, I'm just playing Facebook videos, it's fine.
It looks like just the shape of the body, it's got a bigger hook in it too, or deeper gap, and from the look of the body, it's actually a smaller, like, length frog.
Yeah.
But
well, it'll be good because you won't have all that kind of mass. Like whenever like a snakehead, something with a smaller mouth, you won't have all that mass in there to really like get in the way of getting a hook in the fish.
Because it's out of all the Teckle models, you've got 2 different body styles. You got the body with the 2 legs or the single post, and like the Sprinker and the Maracker and the
Honker.
Well, no, the Sprinker and the Maracker have the one post.
Right.
The Honker, and then all the traditional style frogs. The Honker, the Choker, the... What else? There's like 5. Oh, and the Clinker has the one. That's the new one with the double blades.
Yeah.
But
interesting names for sure. But
yeah. What's he got? Kick Knocker, got the Duck Croaker.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know where like these names are just...
The Duck Croaker is one I meant to buy a couple and I never did, but that's a very, very similar body style to that old Paycheck transporter toad. And those Paycheck baits transporter toads, if you have them, they sell for like over $100 on eBay.
Yeah.
People go nuts over those.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Dudes pay way too much for baits just to catch.
The transporter tote's huge too. Like, I mean, it's like that long. It's got the two legs on the side, 2 legs out the back. It doesn't even walk. It just chugs.
Right. I hear you. Well, that is what we have for our new tackle segment. So I think we've kind of cleared two of our topics out of the way already. What do you want to move on to next? We have a couple different ways that this can go. We can tell the van story first. We can talk about our citations. We can talk about the
this podcast isn't going to have a direct, like a singular topic. We kind of thought about it today. We're going to be all over the place with this one, so just
it doesn't matter.
Hang on to your hats, folks. We'll talk about the van.
Yeah,
that's a good one. We haven't reminisced about that one in a while.
Do you remember the story? You remember the van story? Okay.
I don't know if I've ever told Holly the van story. So
do you know the van story? You don't know the van story? Okay.
She doesn't know the van story.
All right. So about 10 years ago, when Grant and I were in our infancy of our friendship,
of fishing together and friendship,
I've always had these big plans that like we'd make it big on YouTube and just travel and fish. That's always been kind of my goal, regardless of whatever the circumstances are. Yeah, I know.
We're
10 years later, doing the exact
did
same
it.
Shit. Not yet. Nothing has worked so far. Let's keep trying. So, I was still driving a Ranger at the time, so I was like, this isn't working. I can't keep sleeping in my truck on these fishing trips. We should find a bigger vehicle to stay in. So I got on, I think it was Craigslist at the time. I don't think Facebook.
I forgot how much you used to sleep in that Ranger.
Yeah. It
in
was,
the front seat.
and like a lot of it happened in the mountains, like musky fishing and stuff, and sitting upright, slack-jawed in a boat ramp parking lot. I mean, I probably looked like I was on some kind of a drug.
Yeah.
I had a dude wake me up one time at
he thought you were dead.
Yeah, up in Radford. No, he didn't think I was dead. He thought I was like strung out on something. I'm like, no, dude, I'm just sleeping. Everything's fine.
Moving along. I'm calling the cops.
Yeah, never realized how suspicious all.
Bro, I'm just tired.
Yeah.
So what they all say.
Yeah. Why are you tired? Up all night trying to get drugs. Leave me alone. No. So I got on Craigslist. I started looking for like vans. This is before van life even became really a thing too. This is
another trend we could have been ahead on.
I know,
we didn't.
Damn it. We need to pick.
Never thought of it that way.
Missed on all the Facebook, YouTube, or fishing YouTube. Missed on the podcast, and now we missed on van life.
Just like sleeping in Walmart parking lots was like Walmart camping was cool on YouTube for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, John B did it.
I don't know if Josh has ever been more offended that anyone got famous for something.
Frustrating. Yeah, I've spent my fair share of time in a Walmart parking lot. But I got on Craigslist and I started looking up these vans. And I found this one van that was reasonably priced. I still don't think I could afford it at the time, but it seemed like a good idea. It was like one of those conversion vans. At the time, it was probably from like the 80s. I don't know. It was one of those like not a Sprinter.
No, it was a like one of those like Chrysler
like what your 70-year-old chain-smoking grandpa owns. It was one of the. It was like a Dodge Ram big block with the like wood paneling on the inside. Yeah. It was super good. But
had like the little 12-inch TV up in the top for the people sitting in the back.
Yeah, it was good stuff. So I texted this lady. I'm like, hey, want to come up and look at the van? I decided we'd drive up there. And I don't know how I talked to you into.
It was literally like one of these.
Yeah. It was
a Chevy G20.
Yeah.
Conversion van. I think it was a Dodge, but same idea. No, I mean, that's the same color pattern it was.
Yeah, it was super good. I wish I could have saved the picture.
This might be what it actually was. 1993 Chevrolet G20. If it isn't what it is, you can get a close enough mental picture.
Yeah.
And I can assure you it looked nothing like the one in the photo.
Yeah, it was super good. So, anyway, I don't know how I talked you into going up there with me, because that's one of the more ridiculous things I've ever asked you to do is go look at a van.
It was just like a weekday.
I've had a harder time getting you to do things in town, let alone drive to D.C. to go look at a van.
It was in Fredericksburg.
close enough.
Yeah, still.
Anyway, so we set out early one Saturday morning to go look at a van that we couldn't afford. For whatever reason, I thought we were going to, like, team up and buy this thing. And we drive all the way up there. It's like
we need to set the stage with what the listing said. The listing was like, I remember it vividly saying, you know, like, needs tires. And I remember the whole drive up there, you were like, oh, it's tires.
It's no big deal.
We can go to, like, a used tire shop and get some tires. And then the other one was like, small, like, cosmetic damage or something. You're like, oh, it's probably just like some dents, you know? They're not.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Anyway.
Right, let's go check this thing out.
We drive all the way up there, and it's like in the back of like a car mechanic lot or something. It wasn't at like a place that sells vehicles. We get there, and like the lady is just not there. There's supposed to be some lady meeting us there. So I'm like, screw it. We'll just walk around and check this van out while we're up here. Everything's fine. Immediately noticed like tires are dry rotted.
And
the
flat.
top of the cap where it's like extended up so you can walk around is like duct taped on.
Yeah.
So that's good. It had a giant dent in the side of it. And then like
rust holes everywhere.
I'm like, what do you think the odds are it's unlocked? Open it up and it's just like bums had been doing it in it for like 3 months. It was so disgusting.
If you've ever seen the other guys, this van was visited by Big Mike and the boys.
Yeah.
Like this is
there was like it was just disgusting. The inside smelled like wet cat, like it was bad. So needless to say, I was let down a good bit by the van.
It was like leaking, like the roof was leaking.
Yeah, we popped the hood and like looked underneath, and the battery was sitting on a piece of plywood.
Yeah, the battery was. I don't even think the battery was actually hooked up. There was just like the tray where the battery's supposed to be sitting was just a sheet of also like dry rotting plywood. The tires were flat.
The bed was stained. Like it was wet on the inside. This van was definitely used for human trafficking.
It was probably lived in by a homeless person that just wasn't there when we got there.
Yeah, the inside was nicotine orange. It was just a super good van to buy for like $2,500. I think. I don't know what, and I go into all these situations eternally optimistic. Like
Josh
it's
is
gonna
dangerously
be fine.
optimistic.
Like, and it was just like every little thing. I'm like, this isn't looking good. I don't think we're gonna be able to get this van. Meanwhile, the lady isn't even there yet. It was hilarious how like all the photos.
The only thing that would have made it better is if she actually was there and tried to sell it. Yeah. Like, I don't know how you would ever convince anyone to purchase this.
I don't even know. But
the van's probably still sitting in the same spot.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, they took all the photos from all the good angles, if that thing had any. Because if we had seen it, it was one of those deals.
If we would have seen one of the things we saw, we wouldn't have gone.
You, like, roll up, you're like, we need to leave.
No, we rolled up and parked in the parking lot that she gave us the address for. And Josh was like, I think that's the van.
It was so terrible looking.
That can't be it. And you pulled the picture up. You're like, oh no, that's it.
I was like, yeah, that's definitely it. Oh man. But like the other side of the van had like a giant dent where like they ran over somebody. It was just not good. So anyway, this lady's like, I'll be there in like 20 minutes. So I'm like,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry about that. I swear to God, I can't even remember everything about that. It had like shag carpet in it. I just remember everything being orange.
The van has not been cleaned since it was purchased.
Yeah.
Whenever that van was, whatever year it was, it has not been touched since. It was super good.
But anyway, we left there and my dreams were crushed, and it was immediately hilarious.
We got like a mile outside of Fredericksburg and we're dying laughing.
Just the fact that we almost bought this
Ma'am,
thing.
Have you seen what you're selling?
Yeah. That van almost killed us, and we didn't even buy it. I almost crashed the car on 95 laughing so hard at how terrible
You shot Amp out his nose and was screaming about how much it burned.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. I think I was probably like 19 at the time. 19 or 20. It was
God.
Yeah, it was not a great showing. That was the first of many
That was when we were both talking about like, oh man, we could travel around to these kayak tournaments and take this van and dude, it'd be so sweet.
It's like we'll just get it wrapped.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll cover the duct tape with a wrap.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. So Oh no! Do you remember anything else about the van?
I just remember every possible thing that was wrong with it. Like, let's say for whatever reason that was the greatest salesman in the world. She sold it to us. We would have had to tow it somewhere.
Yeah.
The van would not have rolled. If you would have rolled it 3 feet, it would have just all the tires would have probably deflated.
Yeah, that thing had some bad vibes. It was filled full of just ghosts of.
I want to know when the picture
times.
was taken because it looked nothing like the photo from any angle that we could get to. There was nowhere you could look at the van in person and not see rust holes, dry rotted tires, duct tape, or just like peeling paint and like everything else. Because I remember the pictures weren't looking that bad. It was like, oh, this isn't too bad. Let's go see what this is about.
You know what other story I just remembered? The trip we took to Cripple Creek that you mentioned today when you caught that rainbow trout. Do you remember what happened with that rainbow trout?
Oh,
yeah, let's tell that story. Because
the
van one, I can't remember enough about the van one for it to actually be funny.
All right. Yeah.
We go muskie fishing in August because we're idiots and we don't know any better not to do that at the time. This is around the same time frame. It might be a couple years later, but it's still like 2000.
This wasn't long 14, after that. It very well
13,
could have been
14.
I caught that muskie in the rainbow in 15, so it was 2015.
So we went up. We're fishing in Blacksburg, Radford on the New River. We had 1 day of trout fishing and like 1 or 2 days of muskie fishing. And we go up and we're fishing this pay-to-fish trout stream where they like stock the big fish in it. We don't really do that anymore, but at the time, we were just trying to get what we can get.
Just trying to get the citations that we needed. So.
Right. Mind you, we leave, I think, on like a Thursday night because we had 3 days off. I hadn't slept all night. It was when I was still doing that.
We
get off work.
I remember we were at Cripple Creek at like the ass cracking down.
Yeah,
I mean, we were there at like 6.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we drove up and slept in the truck.
Probably.
Or I think we left super early, and I don't know. Either way, I hadn't slept all night. I know that much. We get to Cripple Creek. We're not catching shit because it's August and there's not any trout in the.
Dude, we rocked up to the first hole and you were like, "Whoa, look at all those trout!" Immediately caught one. Our very first cast on the freaking Joe fly.
Well, I was hallucinating.
Well,
I don't remember.
First off, we get there and Josh and I, even back then, were pretty strict catch and release guys. We didn't keep a lot of fish. We get there, the guy says, "All right, so just keep everything you catch." And we had never fished there before, and the only person that we had known that did, remember, was Patrick at Bass Pro. Yeah. And he always told me it was 5 fish limit.
Yeah.
But see, you think 5 fish limit. Like, I'll just go up there, catch them, and release them. I don't care.
Yeah.
And he shows up and says, "Yep, got to keep them all." And we didn't have anything.
You pay $60 to catch 5 fish and then leave, essentially. Which, like.
But now there's no limit. Like, if you're up, there's no limit on trout up there anymore.
I don't know if that's true.
100% true.
I don't know if I believe that.
It's no catch and release, no limit.
I'm not signing off on that.
Either way. Double check when you get up there, but the pictures I've seen on there, there ain't no limit.
Right. Well, I still think it's 6 fish per person. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Besides the point. We get up there. I pass out on the riverbank because I have not slept. Next thing I know, Grant's screaming at me to get the net. For whatever reason, Grant brought a trout net that like you net brookies with.
I brought the wrong net.
He's hooked into this like 8 or 9 pound rainbow trout. It's absolutely massive.
I think it was like 27 inches long.
I just woke up from like the back rooms. I'm still hallucinating.
Josh was asleep on a gravel bar next to the river.
Yeah. So I woke up. I'm still seeing like 8 of everything. I'm not even in this reality yet, and I'm trying to net a trout for Grant. And I don't even think we got it netted. I think I just like scooped and like
lobbed it,
yeeted it up onto the bank. So Grant catches it, and that's early in our citation, like trophy fishing stuff. So this was your first trophy rainbow trout. So it was like a big deal. We're like super stoked on it.
Yeah.
The problem is we're supposed to keep the fish. Like they're like, oh, you got to.
The thought in the back of our minds was, why did we care? We're like, oh, we're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
If we
should just let it go.
We were afraid that for some reason, if we didn't bring a trout back with us,
I remember
the guy would just know we released fish or
Yeah,
like we'd
yeah.
get in trouble
Yeah.
or something.
I remember the conversation of like, if we come back with nothing, he's gonna know. Like, it would have mattered at all.
Yeah.
But no.
And meanwhile, the dude just like takes your money and then just leaves.
Yeah.
Like he's nowhere to be found after you pay.
So we land this fish. We get all the photos for Grant. It's this great big, like, huge rainbow trout. And then we're like, all right, well, we don't have a cooler or any way to keep this fish. So what are we gonna do?
You put it in your giant dry bag.
This giant, like, 55-liter dry bag for Bass Pro that I like dumped all my shit out of, and then we just throw the fish in there. It's 90 degrees
It's
outside.
August in Virginia. This is essentially before this day was over. That fish was not edible anymore.
No. So we put the fish in the bag. We're just carrying a trout around in a bag now. It was super good. So we do all that. We leave that place. We go back to stay at Clater Lake Inn, which I don't stay there anymore due to them having bed bugs. so that is... I might want to bleep them out. I'm not trying to put them on blast.
Yeah. We'll bleep that out.
No, we won't. Anyway... we're staying in this tiny little motel, and it's like, all right, well, what do we do with this 8-pound trout? Never occurred to us that, I don't know, you clean it and maybe go get Ziploc bags in a cooler. No. So I'm pretty sure we tried to put the fish in the refrigerator.
Remember, that was the time the fridge was broken.
Yeah.
That was the time we opened the fridge and it looked like a science experiment.
Yeah, it was all green, moldy and shit. Yeah,
it had them huge things of mold growing on the dish tray or ashtray thing, whatever.
Yep.
Ice tray. That's what I was looking
so
for.
we just leave the fish outside. We ended up going muskie fishing, and I'm pretty sure
we forgot about it.
Yeah.
100% forgot about it.
Yep. So by day 3, it was
we had the
pretty
2 kayaks in the bed of the truck, and we threw the dry bag in the bed of the truck with them. We were like, the coldest it's going to be is outside, so whatever. We went muskie fishing the next day, and...
You caught a good muskie that trip, too.
That's when I caught my citation muskie.
Yeah.
But,
so it was a pretty solid weekend other than the foul, rotten-smelling trout that we were left with.
So, as we're leaving the boat ramp, we're loading the kayaks in the truck, and I see Josh's dry bag, and... Didn't think anything of it. Still totally forgot there was a gargantuanly big rainbow trout in there.
Yeah.
That has been baking in the sun for 2 days.
Yeah, it's super
so
good.
I go up to the front of the truck to like strap the kayaks up to the to the bed.
Yeah.
And I just get a full face whiff
it was good.
of 2-day-old rotten rainbow trout.
Smelled like a truck stop. It was terrible.
Yeah, it is still to this day the worst thing I've ever smelt in my life. It's as close as I've ever come to throwing up from a smell.
Yeah.
And I said, holy crap, we forgot about it. And it's in here. So our idea was when we're leaving the boat ramp, there's a bridge over the creek.
Yep.
And the best thing we could think of was to just upend the dry bag and dump the trout into the creek.
Yeah, super good.
And it just hit the ground with the most... Thwack!
Yeah, so some
sound I've ever heard
probably
in my
found
life.
like a 9-pound rainbow trout that was captured and just
someone probably found a 9-pound rainbow trout next to the New River and was just freaking out.
Yeah, it was super good.
Still to this day, the foulest. I couldn't even breathe for like 30 seconds. It was terrible.
It was pretty rough. I forgot about that till today. I was flipping through some of our fish pictures. It was good.
It's just terrible.
Good. But anyway, I don't know. Those are just 2 brief instances of shit going wrong over the years.
We've had a lot of shit go wrong in the western half of the state.
Yeah.
Those trips.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other stuff that might have happened, but nothing's coming to mind right now. I guess that's what happens when you get blasted by wind all day and sun.
It numbs all your senses.
Yeah, today was
memories.
another good day of not catching anything, but I don't know. Anyway, do you want to move on to talk about the citation stuff? That was kind of your idea for today, I think.
Yeah. Did you pick like a particular
No,
one
but I'll have one by the time you're done talking about yours.
Yeah, I kind of bounced back and forth. We thought about maybe making this like a not necessarily a every week segment, but segment called Citation Stories, where Josh and I are actively chasing all the freshwater species in Virginia. So you can have, just with some of these fish, you're going to get a wild story about how you caught it. Mm-hmm. The one that comes to mind for me the most was, or at least right off the bat, there's a handful, but one that comes to mind for me as being one of the wilder fish I've ever caught was my carp citation. So been out with you maybe a dozen times at that point, doing the way we used to carp fish, dough balls and weightless and just.
That's what they called me in high school.
The weightless dough ball?
No, just dough balls.
I don't know. We've always dabbled in carp fishing, but never got crazy serious about it. Yeah. I guess I don't know, but caught some fish. Never really came super close. I'd caught a few that were, what's the citation? 20 pounds, I think.
20 pounds.
I think my biggest one at the time was 18 and a half, but it was 30 inches. It wasn't quite big enough. We knew where the fish were. We'd seen them in there, and we were fishing a canal system. Won't say which one, but Josh knows which one. And walking down one day with a buddy of ours, Max Moran, who we just went to college and haven't talked to in a while. But I was walking out there, and we were fly fishing. We were coming back from a day of smallmouth fishing, and you walk by the canal, and you always check out, and there's oh, man, there's some carp in there. Let me cast at them. They never eat. Mm-hmm. You're just oh, this will be cool. I can be fly bro for a minute and try and catch a carp.
Yeah.
Never had too much success in there until that day. And all the way down there by the end of the canal, worst possible place to ever hook a fish because you're screwed in every sense of the word.
It's like a 6-foot drop to the water. It's like an concrete 8-foot drop. Yeah, there's no way to properly land the fish down there.
Big old carp, paperwork carp.
Right.
Swimming down the bank. And I'm oh, hey, flop a fly in front of him, happily swims right over to it, eats it. Okay.
Which almost never happens.
Never.
Yeah.
Set the hook, fight the fish. Pretty explosive fight, but I'm 8 feet above the fish on a sidewalk, and he's way down below me, and I'm looking at it. I know it's the citation carp I need. So I'm how are we going to get it? How are we going to get it? Well, the fish is hooked really good. I've got it on a pretty stout nymph hook on a carp fly that I've tied and caught carp on in the past. But I'm pretty positive the fish isn't going anywhere. I had it on fairly heavy tippet for carp fishing. It was on 12 pound. Swimming around. Max gets the idea I'm going to go look for a net. I'm what?
Yeah.
So he runs over and there's a pool.
Oh,
he comes back with a pool skimmer.
Right.
The big flat.
I forgot about that.
The big flat disc thing.
Yeah.
And I'm I don't know. He's I think it'll work. Work to do what? You can't scoop it.
It's about the equivalent of the rainbow trout in the net that you brought.
No, this was trying to pick up. This will be trying to pick up anything with a tennis racket.
Yeah.
You're not going to scoop it.
Yeah.
So he reaches down there one time, touches the fish explodes, swims away, and just okay, this isn't going to happen. So I'm what are we going to do? While he's still holding this 12-foot long pool skimmer,
right,
we see the trash cans. The guy had just come through and emptied all the trash cans. Mm-hmm. Somehow one of us, I don't know who thought about it, decides, hey, trash can has holes in the top of it.
Oh, my God.
Let's slide it down the pool net. So we have a 12-foot pool skimmer with a brute trash can.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It is the dumbest thing I've ever taken part in.
Oh, my God.
We dunk half of the trash can in the water. It doesn't work. How is it going to work? It ends up at Max jumping in the canal to put the fish in the trash can, and then we pull the trash can back up. I pull Max back up, get all the pictures, measurements, weight, everything, and then release the fish back into the canal via the trash can. In the process of trying to pull the trash can back up, the head of the pool skimmer falls off in the canal.
Nice.
Unintentionally, but we looked at each other and was like, that's probably a lot cleaner than most things in that canal.
There's like every scooter in the city is in those canals.
What did we walk down the edge of that canal one day, like coming back to the truck and counted 6 of them?
Richmond has more scooters underwater than it has on land. It's just, I don't know.
He's talking about those bird scooters, the ones you rent.
Yeah.
We walked down one day
scooters.
just looking to see if we saw any carp. I think we saw 6 in 300 yards.
Yeah. 6 scooters in 300 yards.
Yeah.
They were schooling. It was ridiculous. No, I don't know. So people, just something about the city of Richmond. They just love throwing really expensive shit in the water.
The funny thing is, a dude I went to VCU with had, like, for a side hustle, he used to go around pick them up, and he was a charger for the scooters. A couple of those companies, you go around, you pick them up, and you take them home with you and plug them in at your house, and then, like, the next day you take them back.
Right.
And you put them at the nests or whatever where you leave the scooters. I just imagine they all have, like, the little app on them, so when they stop you from running, they always save just enough battery to keep their little beacon going so you can find it. I just imagine him driving down, like, Dock Street, just like, supposed to be right here.
Yeah.
It's in the water.
Yeah. There's more scooters in the water than there is on land. It's kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. I'm surprised none of those, like, lithium batteries explode either.
Yeah.
You would think they
they're
would.
not supposed to be in the water.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be wet.
Interesting.
I don't know. Huh. That reminds me, I have a similar story with Harley that happened in the same area. We were the blue cat that we caught down there.
On the used
probably
bait.
one of my biggest blue cats.
Probably one of your top 3.
Yeah. So there's this fisherman back in the day that hated my guts, which joined the club.
Probably still does.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I don't know, he might be dead, but it really doesn't matter. Anyway, we were fishing the same stretch of river. I was with Harley, and I was giving this dude kind of a wide berth. He was fishing the exact spot that I wanted to fish. There's, like, rocky outcroppings in the James, so, like, you can't. Some of them are better than others, so it's like, okay, I want to fish that one. There's a hole on the other side of it. This dude's clearly fishing it, so I let him do his thing. I knew he was going to leave it dark because everybody does. Everybody's afraid to be on the water after dark for some reason. Yeah. I don't understand. But this dude rolls out, and Harley and I kind of paddle over to the rocks that we're going to sit on. This is summertime, James River. The water's low, and I look down, and there's this giant, like, nice hand-sized bluegill just laying there. He, like, dumped his bait out from his, like, catfish bait bucket, and it's just laying there, like, half dead, half alive. And I'm trying to catch, carp, same area, and gar and all that. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna
throw this out.
I'm gonna put this bluegill on a carp rig or on a gar rig, and just floating up on the surface in probably like 15 foot of water. And we kind of forget about it because we're dealing with, like, carp, stuff like that. And this
caught some carp that night, didn't
you? Yeah. But I had my Malibu kayak at the time, had a big, like, tank well in the back, so we were both able to, like, ride in the same kayak more or less. All of a sudden, this reel, it's just a little 2500 size spinning reel, just
screaming,
just 0 to 1,000,000, like, smoking the lines coming off of it. It's going so fast. I'm like, holy shit. So we go and we both hop in the kayak, and I give Harley the paddle. So she's in the back of the kayak.
That was when you used to fish on your knees all the time.
Yeah, I had this weird habit of fishing from my knees, like, sitting up. I don't know. Those old-style kayaks, like, I never could get comfortable just sitting.
Well, that X Factor.
You don't have leverage. Like, guys like Kevin, like, they're fine with, like, leverage from, like, a lower seat.
It's so much more like core strength when you're sitting in those low seats because you're sitting at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah, I like, when I was fishing out of that kayak, I liked being, like, up on my knees. You'd have more leverage on, like, what I was doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Harley is paddling the kayak from the rear tank well, catching us. Like, I'm down to my backing. I'm running out of line. I'm reeling as she's, like, catching us up to it, and I can feel my braid, like, popping on the rocks. I'm like, holy shit. And this is, like, 10-pound braid. I don't know why I was using 10-pound braid at the time. This is before I knew anything. And I end up getting the line back, and we're fighting this thing. We probably fought it in the pitch black for like, I don't know, 20 minutes it feels like. I don't know if it was that long, but it felt like a long time. Meanwhile, 50 yards from us is a dam. So if you're like screwing around, you're going to end up going over that.
Yeah.
So we're like, there's a lot of stuff going on at once. So she kind of keeps us in position. I get the fish, and like I'm lifting, I'm fighting it vertical. I have a headlamp on, and all of a sudden this just silhouette of this giant catfish comes up, and it's in the part of the James that has like, it's mostly flatheads, or it's supposed to be. So it's like, holy shit! I just caught like maybe a state record flathead off like 10-pound test. Ended up being this massive blue cat,
and then
like,
as always the buzzkill.
I know,
where it's a blue cat.
Blue cats always do. They're such a buzzkill, but. Anyway, we landed this thing, and I got these really cool photos. Harley took these photos of me, like, bear hugging this thing in, like, waist-deep water with, like,
those pictures are cool.
City in the background and stuff. It was super cool, but I don't know. We've had some wild, like, catches that way. I mean, I hate to use my, like, citation story on a blue cat, but that's probably the coolest blue cat that I've ever captured. But I don't know. It was interesting time for sure, and, like, I keep saying we need to go back out there and do that. It's like you start doing things as like
nobody fishes out there. Not much.
Well, we wouldn't know. We don't go look anymore. But it's one of those things like as you progress in your fishing, like you start doing more complex stuff. Like you leave this stuff that you kind of like molded.
It's like
your
last
fishing
summer
doing.
we went and did the wading trip for the smallmouth.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
Like decent fish. I caught that one good one.
It's like float fishing for flatheads, all that stuff. Like you start out doing that, and it's kind of like a basic thing, so you can like understand how fishing works. And then like the deeper you get into this, like the farther down the rabbit hole you go, you leave some of this basic stuff kind of behind. And I know for me, every year I tell myself I'm gonna go wade fishing for flatheads in the summertime. Summer comes and goes, you never do it. But that was just one of those like good memories. We were out there one day. It was. I think all three of us, I don't know where you were, but I don't know. But all three of us were out there. It was like raining. You remember that? Out there, we launched trying to catch carp out of the same place, and that like torrential rainstorm came through. I have that on camera somewhere. It was nuts. But
I remember a long time ago, this is before I even knew you, in that same spot, me and my buddy Joseph from high school put in my dad and I's old Gnu there, a single trolling motor, and went all around. I mean, caught a bunch of smallmouth in there. This is back when the smallmouth fish was really good.
Yeah.
And to this day, my biggest smallmouth ever came from that little grass bar right in front of there. Yeah. And right as my dad was showing up to pick us back up, because he had been at work, and right as he was showing up, we were like 15, and he's like backing the truck down the ramp, and I cast right up to the end of the grass bar, and you see the grass just part. And it's like thunk, set the hook, and I'm using like 6-pound mono and giant smallmouth. That was the one we taped it. I was like 22 1/4 inches.
There's some big fish in the city.
And that fish was over 5 pounds in like August. That was a big one.
Yeah, there's been like 5 and 6 pound smallies come out of like the Pipeline area, the James, stuff like that. There's big fish in the city. It's just
the thing is when they get in those real big rapids and deep holes, like 99% of people aren't going in there with the proper tackle to get to those fish.
Yeah, most people are kind of like doing the same thing. Like 2012ish, we would get out to Pipeline and throw like, this was something I really enjoyed doing too, which doesn't like exist anymore. You go up to like the rapids on Pipeline and you throw flukes or I think it was like weightless Sinkos. Like you throw them and like smallies would crush them right at the current scene, but that like doesn't happen.
That's like
anymore.
all before like a Ned rig existed.
Yeah.
But I will be honest, where the big smallies still remain, you're not getting to those fish with a Ned.
Yeah.
Like it's just the water's too deep, too fast.
99% of the people like do the same thing all the time. That's why like you only see so many smallies get caught. Those, I mean, we saw them last year. Those big fish are still out there, but most people aren't putting in the work to really get to where those fish are.
Yeah.
I mean, but most people aren't coming off of your regular like walking path to like catch them, but
following the pipe or you know.
Yeah,
that's like what I grew up doing was like swim wading out there. You go out, wade to like a rock, and then you're like, oh, I want to go over there. And the hole in between you and the other rock was deeper than you could touch. So you held your rod up here and had your stuff in a dry bag on your back, and you just swam across the hole to the next spot.
Yeah, and if you're wearing Crocs, you almost drown and die.
Yeah,
that happens. The same area of the James. I had 2 instances of like almost dying. I think it might have been the same year, or maybe
it was
2 consecutive years. But
this is all like right when we started fishing together.
Yeah, there's a railroad bridge that goes across there, and I'm usually pretty like self-aware that I don't want to get caught out on that stuff, just because I know what my luck is. I'm trying to get out to the middle of the river, and the fastest way was walking across this railroad bridge. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get caught and like killed by a train. It would be way too, everybody that I went to high school with would be like, checks out. Definitely makes sense. Got hit by a train. He didn't seem very smart to begin with, so there you go. But anyway, I'm like wrestling with whether or not I want to go across this railroad bridge. This father and son's walking across, like coming from the direction that I want to go in. I'm like, okay, well, it's got to be remotely safe. I mean, they wouldn't just walk across. I'm like, hey, you guys seen the train today? No, actually, we've never seen the train the whole time we've ever been out here. I'm like, well, I know it definitely runs on these tracks, but if they're that confident, surely I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Hop up on the railroad bridge, and like this bridge has 3 separate styles of bridges. So like the first is just like a flat kind of truss type thing, and then another one is like the middle one's like an iron truss.
Yeah.
That you like there's no room to get off the tracks on. It's like that the dangerous one is out in the middle and the 2 on the sides are fine. Yeah. So like I walk up on the safe one and I'm like crossing the bridge. I talk myself into it. I'm like, it'll be fine. Like I'll be quick. As soon as I get literally halfway across, I hear this train whistle, and I'm like, I'm like, okay, it's downtown Richmond. Like, there's trains everywhere. We had the viaduct and all that. I'm like, all right. But, like, spend enough time downtown, like, you start to notice when, like, train whistles are different. Like, CSX train whistle's one thing, and, like, Norfolk Southern's another. I'm like, this train whistle doesn't sound like one of the CSX train whistles. I'm like, oh, that's weird, because I'm on Norfolk and Southern track, which... They just tried to kill the entire state of Ohio with their train derailment, so no big deal. But East Palestine.
Flawless track record.
Yeah. But I'm walking across, all of a sudden I turn around and, like, this train comes through the flood wall. And it's
like, kind of comes around the corner.
Comes around the corner. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I'm going to die right now. I'm going to get hit by a train. Everybody from my high school is going to laugh. I'm like, this sucks. So naturally, I do the only thing I could possibly do is just start sprinting, running away from the train. And I'm like, I'm on the part of the bridge where it's like the ties have a gap, which like if your leg goes in them, you're just gonna break your entire leg and get ran over by a train. So I'm like hyper focused, running on these, just sprinting.
Please watch on YouTube.
just sprinting across
the motions Josh is making.
I'm just praying and sprinting, and like this train it wasn't going fast, but I'm not fast. So it was like slowly creeping up behind me. And this conductor's just laying on the horn, which I don't...
See, what it is you are fast. It's just your aerodynamics are off.
Yeah, right,
That's the problem.
Yeah, I'm short for my weight. It's not good. So... I'm like sprinting with a full backpack, fishing rods, and like flip-flops, I think. And I finally get to like where I can hop down on a truss. So it felt like I dove out of the way of this train, but like I jumped down and like slowly passed me. I'm like, cool. Didn't overreact at all. And like it goes by, and like if I would have fallen, I would have died, but I didn't, so I didn't. And the train goes like through the flood wall into like the yard on the south side and like parks. So like now I'm stuck with the train cars still on the bridge, and I'm just stuck like 15 feet in the air. So now I have a completely separate problem because like this train's going to be there for hours. They park on the bridge and just sit there for hours.
Yeah.
So I'm 15 feet in the air, like, okay, well, if I jump from this height, my knees are going to explode. So I can't do, like, and I just, like, sat down, chilled for, like, 30 minutes. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I went from almost dying to now I'm going to almost die again. So, I'm going to, like, I went from getting hit by a train to I'm going to break both of my legs and be in agony and pain. I don't know what to do. So, I sat there and just contemplated my life. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have to throw my stuff down. So, I, like, threw my bags down, like, dropped my fishing rods. I'm like, I'm going to, like, go under the train and like see if there's a way down. Like I'm gonna see if the other side, because the island is kind of on an angle, so I'm like, maybe the other side of this truss isn't so high.
Yeah.
So I climb under this freight train, which like is terrifying. It's a scary thing to do if you're not like working around trains all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like climbing under this train. I'm like, this thing's gonna start like right as I get
you
under
know,
it.
Even if it did fire up, it's not like it's just like, and we're going.
I mean, yeah, but like my mind goes, I'm gonna be like halfway under it. It's gonna move and like hit me in the head, and then I'm just gonna get chopped in half. But I make it to the other side, and there's just a ladder just sitting right there waiting for me. So you
would have jumped on the other side.
Yep. That's kind of like how my life sets up. It's kind of like you were that close to being successful, but like you had to take the long way. So I hopped down and climbed down and like went fishing that day. But so almost got hit by a train, which would have made people I went to school with happy, but it didn't happen. So suck it. And then the same part of the river, I'm wearing Crocs and I'm doing the same type of fishing. I might have even been wearing Crocs in that past story, but I went and I'm like wade fishing, doing all the stuff that we're talking about. I get to like the top of like this rock garden. Like you can go to the bottom and leave, or you can go to the top and leave. But like I had worked my way upriver. I didn't want to. It was getting dark. I'm like, I don't want to work my way all the way back down. I was a pain in the ass. I just didn't want to do it. I'm like, I'll just.
A little bit of foreshadowing there. Didn't want to work his way all the way back down.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna like cut across the top. It'll be fine. I'd never done that before. And Pipeline is like, if you're familiar with Richmond, then you probably know Pipeline. But if you're not, like, it's one of the only sections of a river that really has class 3, class 4-ish.
Like 365 days of the year.
Yeah, like it's got some pretty serious rapids.
I think it's considered a class 4 all the time.
I don't know.
I think it's by the height. Because the river drops a lot in like 100 yards.
Yeah. So, like, I'm wading across. I'm like, I'm gonna cut across the top of this rapid. Everything's gonna be cool, and I'm just gonna leave because like there's a pathway on the other side. I can just walk back to my car. So, I proceed to do this, and I'm like getting deeper as I'm like going across. I'm like leave this rock, and I'm like working towards the opposite bank, and there's only like 30 feet of like currented water that I need to worry about. It's like, okay, well, it's waist deep. I'm good. No big deal. But it gets to like chest deep. I'm like, I can't exactly turn around now. I'm in the middle of this flow. Yeah. Well, about that time, my camouflage Crocs that I was super stoked on hit like a patch of green slime and just shot off my feet immediately. So they're completely useless. And they're made out of like foam, so they float. So it's like, boom, my feet are at my eyes. like I don't know what to do. Like, I don't have shoes anymore. This is a problem. Well, I'm immediately caught by the current, and I'm like, I'm in the shit now. So I'm like, I'm going down the rapids with like my fishing rod.
Going down the rapids.
I'm going down the rapids with like a full U.S. military like Alice pack, like a framed backpack that I thought was the like. This is back in the day where I carried a lot of shit when I went to the river because I did know what I was doing. So I have a full backpack full of stuff and like a fishing rod and like a dry bag, and I'm like going down these rapids on my back, and the only thing I can remember is like keep your feet up so you don't like get caught in a rock. Meanwhile, this frame pack, which I thought was helping me, was actually bashing the back of my skull. So like it would hit instead of me hitting the rock, it would hit a rock. And then it would hit my skull. So, like, when I went home later that night, surprise, I lived. But I went home later and I had a giant, like, softball-sized knot on the back of my head. It was super good. But I'm, like, going down these rapids. I'm, like, freaking out because they get worse the farther down them you go. And, like, if you were just to, like, jump in and float down those rapids, you'd probably live and it wouldn't be a big deal. But, like, when you have a bunch of fishing gear and you weren't trying to do that and you're getting, like,
you're mid-panic,
clubbed in the head, it's not a good thing. So, like, I throw my arm out and I happen to catch, like, the ledge of one of these rapids, like, as I'm going. So my, like, feet go over it and I catch this perfect handhold. And I pull myself up onto like the ledge of this rapid, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm gonna die. And I'm like sitting there like trying to take stock of like because it all happens so quickly. Like you're fine until you're in the middle of drowning, and then it's a problem.
Yeah.
So like I look over, and there's this walking path on the bank, and like as I'm actively drowning, there's this dude on the bank like running after me. He like sees he saw everything happen, which like it's bad enough that you're gonna die, but to be embarrassed and die at the same time,
to have a spectator.
Can I just die alone? Like, don't make me feel bad about it. Like, I'm fine. So like, I'm sitting on the edge of this rock, and I'm like, oh my god, like the terrible rapid that's gonna kill me is like 50 yards away, and I'm in the middle of the river right now. I have like 50 yards. I'm like, I have to make a decision. And I can hear this dude yelling at me from the shore. He's like, do you want me to call the fire department? I'm like, no, because I would rather die than be
the dude that gets rescued.
Gets embarrassed, and 2 has to pay like thousands of dollars. I'm like, I'm just going to die. It's fine. Let somebody else take care of it. So I'm like, no, I'm fine. I just lied. I'm like, I'm fine. I
know what I'm doing.
I do this all the time. So like, I'm like, I have to consolidate because I can't keep swimming with this Alice pack. Right? So like, take all the important shit and I put it in the dry bag. Like, take the reel off the rod, put it in the dry bag. Like, I don't even know. I packed the dry, and I made the dry bag into like this pillow thing. So I'm like, it'll keep me floating. I won't drown. Right. So like, I'm like, all right, I have to get rid of this Alice pack. So I just chuck it. It's in the river somewhere still. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Throw it in the river. I'm like, please God, if you're real, let me live. Like, I'll do anything. I'm like, I had to jump for it. And like, I had to jump away from the rapid that was directly underneath me. Little did I know it probably wouldn't have killed me. I'm way too buoyant. So I had to jump out from the rapid that's below me and then swim for my life to the bank, right? So I do that. I like say a couple Hail Marys. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Throw the Alice pack away. And I like leaped out as far as I can, which is probably like 3 feet. Like, if we're being real, probably not that far. So I leap, and I'm like, I'm swimming as hard. I'm not, eyes are closed. I'm just swimming for my life. I'm like, if I'm going to die, I don't want to see it coming. I'm like, I'm swimming as hard as I can towards this goober-ass dude on the bank who asked me if I wanted the fire department. I'm like, no. And like, all of a sudden, I feel the rocks like hit my chest. I'm like, oh, I'm in shallow water. I get over, and I stand up, and like, I walk over to like the walkway that dude's on. He runs up. He's like, dude. And I'm like, almost died. Like, I'm trying to like gather myself up from almost dying. And like, dude, that was the coolest shit I've ever seen. That was some Bear Grylls shit. That was amazing. I'm like, please, sir, leave me alone. He's like, that was the coolest shit ever. Let me shake your hand. I'm like, cool. So I just like gave this guy a live action Man vs. Wild.
He got to witness Bear Grylls in person.
Yeah. So he's like, oh, let me shake your hand. I'm like, okay, cool. And I almost died. So like, I get up and I'm like, cool, just playing it off like it wasn't the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me. I like walk back to my truck, and I sit there. I'm like, I almost died. Like I like having a like real like.
Why are you doing this?
I'm
man?
back in reality. Like, is it worth it? Like, anyway. So I'm just sitting in my truck. I start violently shaking because the adrenaline wears off, and I'm like freaking out. So I drove home. Harley's like, oh my God. I told her the whole thing. I'm like, I almost died today. It was amazing. It was so crazy. This dude thought I was Bear Grylls. I'm not even British. It was amazing. She like touches the back of my head. There's like a watermelon attached to the back of my skull. It was terrible. I was in such bad shape. I ended up going back like 3 days later, doing it all over again. But so yeah, I almost died. Literally 100 yards is the distance that separates those two stories, but they're just equally stupid. I've had so many dumbass things that have happened to me over the years. It's been ridiculous.
It's crazy how much stupid shit happens in that stretch of river too.
But like, you realize how
we know 2 people that had. Well, we don't really talk to them anymore, but we know 2 people who have had to be rescued from the train bridge.
Dude, that same rapid that I was afraid I was going to drown in, 2 weeks later, I'm sitting there catfishing, and this hipster dude, like in boxers, they had jumped from where the guy was over to where I was, like, and then tried to swim back across the rapid. He goes through that rapid. And, like, it's flushed out. And he's super, just genius. Swimming against the current, like, trying to swim upstream. I don't know what he was thinking.
I'm a salmon.
He could have swam like 4 feet to the left and been totally fine. But no, this dude's like swimming and then he's just arms up and he's like actively drowning. Jesus. His friend is completely no use. Doing the same thing, like running down this pathway, watching his friend die. So I like dropped my stuff and I wade out and I like saved this dude, but it was the most anticlimactic thing ever. Like I literally just waded out and just grabbed him and like pulled him up like, hey, don't do that. And like I have videos somewhere of that, of like this, like me wading out, grabbing this dude, dragging him into shallow water, and then him just sitting on a rock, like head in hands for like 30 minutes. Just like I almost died in this shitty ass town. Like, I don't know.
The train bridge where you had the train park on you. Freaking, you remember, what's his name? I'll say his name. Don and his little brother.
I don't know who you're talking about. I've never heard of that guy before.
Yeah, me either. They were up there messing around during striper season, and train parked on the bridge, and the other two people that were fishing with him decided, well, we'll just hop up on the edge of the train tracks and like catwalk it beside the train for like 30 yards and hop down. Mm-hmm. And those two were like, nah, we're not doing that. Daddy's credit card will be just fine. Fire department. Yeah. And they came up there and they're literally just sitting there in the middle of the river, just like hanging out, waiting for the fire department.
The thing is, like, in that there's like this safer section that is scarier to look at, and then there's like this scary section which you don't even consider. Like, that section, if you just get in the water and float, you're not going to die. There's nothing down there.
There's absolutely nothing that is going to.
It's just a little scarier because it's wider. So you're like, oh man, it's but like you're fine. The water's like 55 degrees.
Well, still, you're like, if you would have floated down, you just hit the rapids at like 14th Street.
Yeah, it's shallow under that. Yeah, you're fine. But like the other side of the river, you're just gonna die.
Well, the other side of the rivers were like, you're talking, this one side makes up 60% of the river and only 30% of the flow. The other side is 30% of the river with 60% of the flow.
Yeah.
And it's wider, like where we're talking about. It's wider, but there's way less water.
Yeah, but overall.
Like way less like push.
You do all that and you realize like why it's so easy for so many people to drown every year, or to like be in a difficult situation every year, because it's literally just bad. Like, it's just a dangerous area if you're not prepared for it.
Too many people don't know how that stuff works, though.
Yeah, but anyway, that's 2 stories of me almost dying. But good stuff. If it would have happened, it would have put me out of my misery, but it's fine. Anyway, we'll skip the TikTok stuff today. We don't need to do that. Let's jump in. We're at an hour and 12 minutes or so. We'll kind of our main closing topic of the day. We talked about the top Virginia trophy largemouth waters in, I believe, episode 3. The DWR, Virginia DWR, released the top trophy smallmouth waters for 2022, and we'll just kind of go through those, talk about those a little bit. First thing that like really jumps off the bat is the amount of citations that are turned in
compared to largemouth.
Yeah, both bass, but like the amount of smallmouth that get turned in versus largemouth is like overwhelming.
It kind of touches on what we were saying. A lot of these largemouth guys don't really care about citations.
Yeah, it's largemouth definitely have like a different attitude.
Yeah,
like fishing for them. Like if I like at a surface level. Seems like largemouth are way more of a competitive species. Yeah. Like, and smallmouth are more of an adventurous species. Yeah. So, like, if you're fishing for largemouth and you happen to catch a big one, it's like cool. Like, maybe you're in a tournament or practicing for a tournament, and like that's what you're on the mind for. But like, I feel like more people actually go out and like covet catching a citation smallmouth.
Yeah, I mean, and out of these
out of these 5, I mean, you got going from most citations to lowest. It goes James River's number 1, New River number 2, Roanoke River number 3, and Smith Mountain Lake and Staunton River are tied at number 4/5.
Right.
Out of all of those, I mean, I've fished all of them except the Roanoke River, and apparently the Roanoke being 3rd with 22 might be somewhere you need to check out.
I've never fished the actual Roanoke River.
I mean, I just haven't. Nothing I really fish for draws me there.
Yeah, the Roanoke's in kind of a weird part of the state too. Like you have the Staunton. A lot of those rivers feed Kerr or Bugs Island.
I've fished the Staunton a couple times. I know a lot of guys who fish it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially the upper reaches for the smallmouth. I mean, Smith Mountain, that makes sense. A lot of guys catch the smallmouth way up the lake, like up the river.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like the Staunton and the Roanoke. So it goes James River with 30, New River with 27.
I'm surprised that James beat the New, but
yeah,
it's
Roanoke River
when they're
22.
that close together. I don't really say one's like beating the other. They're both. I mean, that's the 2 best in the state. Everybody knows.
Yeah, but like the Roanoke and the Staunton are more or less the same river system.
Yeah,
I believe. Like if you look at it on a map, I think they turn into one another according to the Google Maps. But
yes, I mean, I would say the Roanoke is the one that surprises me the most. The Staunton, surprises me that it's on there, but I don't know. I mean, I see a lot of really nice fish come out the Staunton, even though it's a small river.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of nice ones come out of there.
Well, the Staunton produced the state record saw guide back this summer, so it definitely has the potential to produce big fish. It has Leesville Reservoir upriver from it, and then doesn't Smith Mountain feed Leesville? I'm pretty sure they're all connected.
Yeah, I think they're all part of the Roanoke.
Yeah, so I mean, all this makes sense.
Yeah,
you have the same genetics.
Yeah.
So,
because the Roanoke River flows into the Pamlico Sound, but it's basically if the Roanoke stayed in Virginia the whole way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you start all the way up at Smith, you come through, and I mean the Roanoke feeds into Bugs, Kerr, and then I mean not the Bugs and Kerr, Bugs, Gaston, then Roanoke Rapids Lake, and all the way down to the Pamlico Sound.
Right. So let's see. Where are we at here?
It's still, though, I mean, 30 citations smallmouth in a whole year. I mean, you like for number 1, so many fish aren't getting reported. I mean,
yeah,
I would wager to say this is like 10% of how many fish are probably actually getting caught.
Yeah. So the Roanoke feeds Smith.
Yeah.
So you have the Roanoke River feeding Smith Mountain Lake. And then Smith Mountain Lake, directly below Smith Mountain Lake, is Leesville Reservoir. Leesville Reservoir flows into the Staunton.
Gotcha.
Or Stanton. So it's one giant system that is producing 3 of the top 5. And then you have the New, and then you have the James. So the James River is made up of the cow pasture and the Jackson. They converge up around Covington, Virginia. And it's another, I mean, the James goes from the cow pasture and the Jackson and basically flows across the state into
the
Chesapeake Bay. So, like, it's got a lot of nutrients, got a lot of bait fish, got a lot of big fish, and a lot of variety in it. So,
it is wild, though. I mean, even with all the reports of the smallmouth fishing being down, throughout the last maybe 10 years, it is wild that it's still number 1.
Yeah.
I read, I have an old Fly Fishing for Smallmouth book. It's Bob Klauser's book from years ago. And he lists like 30 or 40 different smallmouth rivers along the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And he even said in that book, it's like, the James was in it. The James and the New were both in it. And he said the James, regardless of size, he said there was no river on the East Coast. This is back when that book was written.
Right.
There was no river on the East Coast that could compete with the James for numbers.
Right.
He said pretty much every time he ever fished the James on a float trip, he was catching 50 to 60 fish in a float on a fly.
Right.
And he said the same about the new, but the new always had bigger fish back then.
Well,
the new's older, way older.
Here's a good representation of what you just said. So here's a quote from the DWR website. It says, the non-tidal James River has experienced noticeable reductions in smallmouth bass abundance in recent years, said Hunter Hatcher, DWR fisheries biologist. This certainly is an idea. What? I can't read. This certainly isn't ideal, but the result is an abundance of forage for the fish that remain. So that kind of makes sense why you have,
I mean, it's like what Blaine has told me about in the past. I mean, instead of catching 50 to 60, you're catching 10 to 15, but they're all big.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. The hotter the weather gets, the more you'll want to key on riffles and moving water.
Oxygen.
You'll be surprised how shallow big smallmouth will be during the dog days of summer.
That's the whole deal with that bug fishing that they do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, and here's a quote from the New River portion. It says, similar to some other rivers in Virginia, the New River has experienced some below-average smallmouth bass spawns in the last several years, which has resulted in a slight reduction in the abundance of adult fish. However, good numbers of quality fish still remain for anglers to target, and recent above-average spawning classes, especially on the upper New, bode well for anglers as these fish grow to adult size.
Yeah, so, there is some good signs on the horizon. A couple guys that I used to wade with in Richmond for smallmouth and around the area, they messaged me last summer and were telling me, like, hey, the numbers are pretty close back to where they were, because the last 4 years we've had 4 good spawns. We've had dry springs, which keeps the river from blowing out when the fish are making their beds. So we've had 3 to 4 good spawns in a row.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of those fish coming of age. They're 10, 12 inch fish now.
Right.
Once they get to be that like 8 to 10 inch mark, they are able to protect themselves, and when the river spikes, they're strong enough to get out of the current and stuff like that.
What's interesting is Smith Mountain was on here for both largemouth and smallmouth. Granted, there wasn't a ton of citations turned in for each one, but it was within the top 5 in both species. Smith Mountain's also part of the impoundments in the state that are getting the F1 hybrids for largemouth. So that's kind of
there's a few guys up there that I follow on like Instagram, and there's some hammers that fish up there that stay on those big smallmouth. And they're not even turning them in. I know that, but they're fishing way up the river, and they catch big ones all summer long.
Smith Mountain's an interesting place because it's like you have trophy caliber black bass in largemouth and smallmouth, and then you also have trophy caliber striped bass, which is probably one of the only impoundments.
There's white bass in there too. I mean, they have a lot of stuff. Like my buddy's dad lives up there has told me on one point in one morning he's caught largemouth, smallmouth, spot, striper, and a white bass all off the same point.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Crazy.
It's what do they have, herring in there?
A little bit of everything. They got thread fins, gizzards. They do have herring.
Yeah.
The main thing they're eating is gizzards, though. At least the bigger fish, but they still got thread fins.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Smith Mountain clearly has abundance of forage to produce big fish in multiple different species.
It's got all those shad too, but Smith Mountain has a ton of itty bitty little bluegill. Yeah. Like they're everywhere, especially in the spring. You'll see them all around like root balls of trees and stuff, and you'll see bass working through them.
Yeah, Smith's one of the few places I haven't actually fished. I actually haven't fished.
It's an intimidating place, man. Every time I've ever fished it after 10:30 in the morning, you're done.
Yeah, it's just a big place.
It's just all the boat traffic.
Oh, yeah.
After 10:30 in the morning, there's 3,000 boats on the lake.
Well, it's like the biggest impoundment in that part of the state.
I think so.
So, I mean, that makes sense.
It's like, it's Lake Ann on steroids. Mm-hmm. And every single time, if it's a nice day, you're done.
Right.
I mean, it could be a blizzard in February on a Tuesday, and there's still 100 boats on the lake running around. The place is nuts.
So, it's all like southwestern Virginia like money.
Yeah.
It's like the place you go to spend it, more or less.
Yeah, well, that whole area, I mean, once you get outside of Roanoke, there's nothing other than, like, Smith Mountain. I mean, that's all that's
not a whole
around.
lot to do. Yeah. But the Virginia trophy requirements for smallmouth bass are 20 inches or 5 pounds. Largemouth, it is 8 pounds or 22 inches. And striper is 37 inches or 20 pounds. So all three of those can be captured at Smith Mountain Lake. We urge you to all get out and give a shot.
Yeah,
Turn it in.
The smallmouth citation is like one of the most perfect ones they ever did.
Yeah.
5 pounds, like, I mean, there are a few, I mean, there's quite a few 5-pounders get caught every year, but, like, there are exponentially more 4.5 pounders.
Yeah.
And then it's like 20 inchers. There's quite a few that get caught every year, but there are thousands of 19.5 inchers that get caught. That is, out of all the citations they have in the state, that is by far the one that they, like, hit right on the nose.
Largemouth's pretty solid too, because, like, I mean, you catch a lot of, like, 6 to, I mean, not a lot.
Yeah,
but
like 22 inches isn't insanely difficult. Like, an 8-pounder is much harder than a 22 incher.
Yeah.
Because unless you're fishing just a loaded lake or a pond, a 22-inch fish isn't even going to weigh 8 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, a 22-inch largemouth in the spring of the summer, I mean, spring it would, maybe, but summertime, a 22 inches would weigh like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
5.5.
Yep. So, another interesting report from the state.
I like that one a little bit more than the largemouth one. The largemouth one, sample size is just too small.
Yeah, paints a little bit better of a picture of, like, what anglers are actually doing. Like I said, when you only have, like, 9 trophies turned in from a particular body of water, like,
and that's still in your top 5. Like,
yeah,
you might want to
like, one dude has turned in like 2 or 3.
Yeah, 3 of those 9.
You don't really have a lot of people participating in the program at that point.
I think the largemouth one, you had like a total of, out of your top 5 lakes, it was what, 50 maybe.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
Whereas this one you got, let's see, 57, 77. So I mean, yeah, you're just shy of. Actually, you're over 100, at least over 100 for the 5. So
yeah,
that's a little bit better sample size.
Yeah. So we encourage you all to go out and participate in the Virginia Angler Recognition Program. We've talked about it a bunch on here, and it's done a lot for both of us as far as giving our fishing purpose. So
yeah.
But do you have anything else?
No, I think I'm good. Oh wait, this so this podcast will be airing on Monday the 6th. That is the day before Bugs and Brews, actually. Little fly tying, fishing get together that I started up with a buddy of ours, Jacob Nixon. We have it at Legend Brewing Company on the south side down in what's that? I mean, it's Richmond, but
Manchester.
Yeah, Manchester area, but
south side of the river in Richmond, Virginia. If you don't live in Richmond and you want to still participate, I'll link my Venmo. You can send me money.
But anyway, it's we have it every month, the first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. at Legends. So yeah, Legend Brewing Company. If you want to stop by, you don't have to tie flies. If you just want to come and hang out, there's usually a handful of us there just chilling. So always a good time.
Might start doing like a live podcast or something if there's enough people there. Sort of interview the guys that we
maybe one of the months that we know like a lot of people are coming or something.
Yeah, just something different to do. But anyway, I think that's all we have. Got anything else to add before we're out of here?
I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Peeling Drag podcast. Hopefully next time you hear from us, we'll actually have caught some fish and Grant won't look like a raccoon. So the wind and the sun was...
Windburn is a bitch.
Yeah, it was brutal. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Yep. Later.
See you.